Yeah, so I had done the same thing. We were sitting here. Do you remember when it snowed? And it snowed like close to you guys, right? So it snowed. We were in Orange, Alabama for spring break this last year's spring break, and so I always when it gets cold here, I'm like, wonder what it's like in Orange, Alabama. And they were getting snow, and it was cold. Um, so I thought the same thing. I was like. And even when you get into like when it gets cold like that, when you get to Key West, it's like 70s in Key West. Those folks are miserable.
I know my dad was in Orlando and he's like, it's so cold here. And I'm like, well, Florida's getting snow while I was stuck in Iowa. And then I ended up like flying from Omaha all the way to Chicago, trying to get back here in the middle of the storm. And right mid flight, United texted me and said, your flight to Pensacola has been canceled.
Yeah.
You're stuck in Chicago for 3 days. And I ended up having a fever, sinus infection, the flu, like it was miserable being stuck in a hotel room being sick with none of your
Yeah.
things.
Um, and I had one of my guests on from Texas the other day, and his wife was the same thing. She was snowed into Savannah on the East Coast. So he was like, so it doesn't happen often, but when it does,
No.
it's a huge disruptor for oh my goodness.
It,
Tell me,
but it was good. It was a good, I think I've been feeling a lot of like slow down energy. Like I still feel like I'm coming out of 2024. I don't feel like I'm moving to 2025 yet. And everything, like I told somebody, I said, I feel like each one of my ankles is shackled to a boulder and I'm up to my neck in quicksand. And the more I try and get out of it, the worse it is. So I'm literally laying in quicksand, just surrendering to everything, trying to process and enjoy the pause while trying to navigate where my energy and attention gets put. So it's an interesting place to be right now.
cold weather can do that. I have friends that suffer from just seasonal depression,
Mhm.
to where they'll get in that cold spell, and if they are not around enough sunlight, right, where it gets dreary, they'll kind of go. We call it hibernation. I'm like, you're
Yeah.
starting to hibernate. It's time to come back, or let's go do something different. But I have some friends that are self aware of it. So when it happens, they kind of feel it coming on as they're able to combat it with different things and different influences.
Yeah.
Why do you tell me real quick? Why do you think you're holding on to 24? Like this?
I don't know. It just feels like residual energy. It doesn't feel like we've actually landed in 25 yet. It literally feels like, and it only makes sense, right? Because spring is when babies are born, animals, like it's just like spring is like fresh and it feels like that should be the start of our new year. And it feels like winter is still hibernation and people want to go into this, January 1st, I've got to have all these rules and regulations and I got to do all these things and I got to get healthy. And our bodies are still in slowdown mode. Like it's still winter. Like you're still in supposed to be hibernation mode. You're not supposed to gear up until right before spring, but there's all this society, whatever. So I said, I give up on doing New Year's resolutions. I just pick a new word for the year. And like, if I feel like I'm getting stuck, like my word is flow. So if I'm doing something and I'm feeling stuck or I'm feeling like it's not going in that direction, I kind of resonate with that word and say, is what I'm doing going to help me put me back into flow? Or is it putting me in an opposite direction? And if it's not going with the flow, then it's going to go to the wayside and then I'm going to focus on something else that will get me back into flow.
That's a really I guess I kind of just process it a little differently in my head, but I've been taught that method. I hear people talk about it, and if that's something that like that's really neat to hear. Here's my problem. I think it's the scatterbrain in me is like when you say like flow, like I'm like that is the word, and then all of a sudden I would be like, well, flow is not really matching where I'm at right now. I need a new word, right? Most of you like when you pick that, you try to stick with it for the duration of the
Mhm.
year, right?
Yeah, no, well, and if you need to change it, I mean, there's no rules. It's your
I
rules. So
got you.
you can do what you need to do. I'm the queen of pivoting. I've pivoted like this whole being in business 22 years has been nothing but pivoting. I'm so dizzy. But yeah, I think that you can do whatever you want to do, but just having one word that you like as I was ending the year, I'm like, I've been in like such a high state of stress and not being in flow. really want flow. It's peace. It's my security, not stressing about when's the next client coming, not stressing about when is this going to happen. I don't want to do that and put my attention towards the negative. I want to put it towards, the positive. Like a lot of people will say my life's falling apart, and I'm trying to look at it as it may feel that way, but my life is falling together is how I'm trying to piece it.
Yeah, no, that's good. Someone mentioned pivot the other day, and I was like, you know what? I've come up with a cool acronym the other day. You talk about your word.
Oh yeah, what's that?
Listen, I was going to share it with you because I was pulling it up because I was like, you know what? I was like, but then when you said that, I was like, I know where to find that immediately. But it was, I got asked to come in and teach like existing business owners, like what you said. Great time to bring it up. Of I'm the queen of pivot, right?
Yep.
So what I got to teach was like those existing businesses that are starting to hit those either stale or starting to see some decrease, right? So they're like, Jeff, we want you to come in and talk about this. And um, I come out of law enforcement, so acronyms is very, we're used to that. Like you do this, and I can't. I'm 20 years removed from that career. I still talk about it, but I can't remember a lot of them.
That's okay.
But
You got the gist of it down.
yeah, that's right. I know how to do the thing. So here's what I come up with: pivot framework,
Okay.
pinpoint the problem,
Mm-hmm.
right? Pinpoint the problem, investigate key areas,
Mm-hmm.
visualize new goals,
Yep.
optimize for change, and then the T is transform. It's like go back to the P. Just keep constantly evaluating if what you're doing is working, and it kindly keeps you in you then that way you
Flow. It
yeah,
keeps
keeps you
you
in your
in
flow.
flow.
Ooh,
I love
yes.
it.
Oh, look at this. I feel like yes, those are great. I like it's that really fit well there, man. That's going to make a really good highlight.
Use that and say, I talked to this crazy girl from Florida, and we're gonna use that word flow. It's gonna flow right into the thing. Yeah,
the cool thing,
yeah.
there was each one of them. Like I broke down, like I gave, like, do this, talk to this, do this. And after I was done, one of the guys came up. He was like, hey, I really liked how you did that. And listen, I did it off just scrolling off a Google Doc, right? It's not something. I was like, hey, this is kind of what's on my brain. Um, so he was like, not only did you explain the problem, you gave us a solution. And now when I think pivot, because everybody's like, oh, you just need to pivot. You just need to pivot. He goes,
What
but
does that mean?
what does that mean?
What does
Right.
that mean?
So yeah. What's a day look like for you? Like when you got a stress, you got a lot of things pulling on you. It sounds like it.
Mm-hmm.
What's a day look like in your life?
uh, uh, 25, it hasn't really happened yet. Like I said, I feel like I'm in quicksand, and no matter how much I try and do and put energy, I just get the energy from, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, like to slow down and pause, and like things are in the work, but it's nothing that I can do at the moment. It's all happening from seeds I planted a while ago. And so like I just had I woke up this morning and got on, email, and got a beautiful email from one of my team members, one of my employees, and it was like, hey, I don't want you to take this in a negative way, but like there's been employees and talking, and I think there's some frustration, and it can be solved with some, conversations. I have some ideas. I would like to go over it with you. Can you make some time to talk to me today? And, I was like, so like frustrated and sad in the beginning, because I'm like, I want every employee to be able to come to me, but then, sometimes there's this gruff masculine side that comes out that I'm trying to solve the world's problems. Don't bother me right now. Just figure it out on yourself. And that kind of, that energy isn't great. So after having the conversation with her and doing a few tears, because we were a close group, little knit of women, and like it was like I'm like, this is such a positive thing. Like you really are helping me grow and change. And so I actually just canceled my whole day, and I sat and I scheduled calls with every single employee and just talked to them. I'm like, please share with me what your frustrations are. And and I had this employee contact everybody just to let them know, because I don't want to spring anything up, like what's going on, tell me your frustrations and how to solve them. So she gave them a heads up, and then we just had opened it up for conversation on one-on-one instead of in a group setting. And I realized a lot more things that are going to shore up our foundation. And just I think maybe that was part of this moment of pause for me, just to like, you're almost there, but if you don't shore this up, things can slip through the cracks and you're going to end up in a worse spot. So get your foundation set. Because, and I told everybody I spoke to, I said, I just feel so blessed because for the first time in 22 years of business, I feel like I have the best capable team that I am ever going to have or would ever have ever. And it's just, what do I need to do to bring in and plant those seeds and bring in the business, or who do I need to bring in, or what's our messaging and where we're going? And so that's like been my focus. So it was a beautiful moment today to just kind of put my employees first and say, you matter. I hear you and I appreciate you coming to me. So that was what my day looked like today. That's not typical.
All right, hang on a second, Miss Flo. Let me tell you about my day and how we're flowing here.
Okay.
So I had to run down for a quick business meeting. I do some contract work for the SBDCs, and so my home county that I work out of, I I had to go down for just a partner meeting, and it's just a really quick couple hours. We just round table, everybody talks about what they do, and after it was over, it's the first one I'd ever really gone to, and this lady comes up and she's like, "You're a small business?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I do small business coaching." She was like, "I got an employee that signed a so non like a social media policy and a no gossip policy, and we fired them, and now they're posting negatively about us on social media." And then she goes, "And then I got this other lady that still works for me that's talking smack basically." And I was like, "Listen, all I'm hearing is you've got a culture problem and you got something that's getting ready to break loose because you're not leading
Yeah.
and you're absent right now." And I said, "You're allowing some negative culture and some gossip." And she goes, "We have a no gossip policy. They're not supposed to be doing it." I go, "Yeah, but that's as good as the paper it's wrote on."
Yep.
And I was like, "Here's what I challenge you to do. This is no kidding, Jodi Peterman, Flow Lady. This is what I challenged her to do." I said, "Here's when you get back today, I want you to call everybody in your office individually for 10 minutes.
No way.
Talk to them." I said, "Listen, I want you to talk to them." And I said, "Because here's what I'll guarantee you. 90% of your employee problem is home stuff that they don't have anybody to talk about. So it's just festering and venting, and you're someone that they trust because they work for you and all these things." I said, "So keep that in mind. It might not go be business." I said, "But ask them how their day's going, what you can do to help them with their job, what you can do to help them be more efficient. Is there anything they need to bring to the table?" And I was like, and if she denies it, just be like, "Well, listen, I've heard some things that you frustrated, right? Let's clear the noise, let's clear the air." And I challenged her to do that. And I told her, I was like, the other lady, she's like, "Well, we're going to get an attorney and we're going to do this." And I go, "Why don't you block her and move on? Stop chasing old money,
Yeah.
right? Just
Well,
move forward and don't worry about that."
that's
And then
part of the things that, trigger us. Like people come into our lives, for a reason or for a season. And so I had a lot of past employees where I didn't do things properly. And part of the pivoting whole purpose of that. And you just kind of have to like let it go. Like the whole reason I started not the reason I started my company, but how my one of my major pivots is I came up with our process, our 5D process, right? In order, because of negative experience that I went through with my builder when I was building my home. So I'm like, I don't want that to happen to everybody else. It's a very logical problem to solve. We just have to do things differently. And I came up with that process. So, yeah, so that was just a huge pivot. And I could have and I did for a while, let that whole experience with that builder bring me down, and I became literally the worst version of myself until I couldn't stand myself anymore. I was so negative, so nasty, just like everything and everybody, and this person isn't it just spiraled out of control. And I'm like, this is not, like, I got slapped in the face by God, universe, whatever. And like, this is not the person that I created you to be. You are not a radiant light of my love and, light out in this world. And that's who I need you to be. You need to get your poop in a group, basically. So I was like, all right, so I'm going to come up with a process, and this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to turn lemons into lemonade. And, we're going to help other people one project at a time.
I think I mean, it's hard to go wrong when you're helping people. And this is, we've been, let's see, 15, this is, we've been rambling for 15 minutes on our warm up conversation here. But let me tell everybody who you are, and then let's get into what you do. Since all the
Start chatting.
we've solved all the problems, but let me tell you where you can find more information. But no, we've got Jodi Peterman, CEO and founder of 𝐿izabeth_Designs and host of the Designing in 5D podcast. When you said 5D, that's when I looked down and I was like, I hadn't really got to this part yet. But from the farm in Iowa to New York City, building your thriving business in Florida, and the notes that I made just reading off and getting to know you before we met was embrace change at every turn. And that's our pivot that we came up with earlier.
Yeah.
So I was sitting here reading, I was like, we talked about that, right? But anyway, I wanted to walk us. We talked about what the day is for you now, but let's get me to how we got to this conversation. Like, well, give us a walkthrough on just your life and how your business and all your startings. You
Sure.
take it away.
Okay, so I grew up in Iowa in a small, very small town on the farm, and my grandma sewed and had her own business. And I grew up. They got me one year a beautiful Barbie house made by the Amish, and it was just completely just wood and blank. And I was like, "This is nice, but where's the color?" So I literally took scraps of everything I could find from my grandma's sewing box just to make curtains, put bed covers on, used matchboxes, got creative, as kids do. Well, kids back my age did. Now it's like all electronics. That's a whole nother conversation. So just getting creative. And I knew at the age of 7, I told everybody I was going to go to Iowa State and I was going to major in design. I ended up not going into fashion design. I ended up going into fashion design and moved to New York City and worked for 𝐃𝐨𝐿 New York and helped her with her as an assistant to her for a while. And then found myself moving to Texas, and through a whole thing met my husband, and then we had twins. And then I said, I need to get to the East Coast, and he's in science. So he's analytical chemist. So he's like, okay, let's go to the East Coast. I got a job in Massachusetts, and I'm like, I need more. I know, like all over. I'm like, I need more. I need to be like closer to New York City, because I thought that's where I was supposed to be. And so we ended up in compromising and moving to New Jersey because the city we didn't feel was a great place for kids. So we ended up in New Jersey, and I met a mom in the moms group, and she was doing marketing, and she knew that I wanted to start an interior design company. So go from fashion to interior design instead of putting all the pieces together aesthetically, texture, color, and everything on a person. You're just doing that on a space. And then I got a job while I was starting my own company with another designer and worked with her for 5 or 6 years and had the opportunity to purchase the company from her and then just change the name. So it was her name. And then in 2007, I took it over and changed it to, I was going to do J. Peterman Designs because I'm like, that's a cool, not feminine, not masculine, just a really nice business name, until everybody in New Jersey started laughing at me hysterically when I told them that name, because J. Peterman is Elaine's boss on Seinfeld, who is a complete, excuse me, can I curse on here? I was going to say dumbass. He was a dumbass. And everybody was like, you don't want that name. That's terrible. And I'm like,
oh. I don't watch it. Like, I was like, that's a really cool name.
I know, right? So I was like, okay, whatever. So I was, had my twins now were, oh my gosh, how old were they? They were probably about 5 or 6. And they were, as kids do, playing downstairs. I had my office in the loft, and they were driving me crazy after half day kindergarten. And I leaned over the railing and I'm like, Hannah, Elizabeth, and Sydney Aaron, stop. And I was like, ooh, Elizabeth Aaron Design. So I was like, okay, kids go back to screaming and fighting. That's going to be my new business name. So I looked it up and it was available. And that's how I got my name. And then my husband was going to pivot us and move to Seattle, Washington. And so when I was in Seattle, Washington, I had a real estate agent that were showing us all around because the company wanted to woo us out there, right? And they were like, oh, you do interior design? And I'm like, yeah, I have a company. And they're like, great, because you could be my designer when you move out here. I'm like, great. Now I've got, a partner for business. And he's like, do you do staging? And I was like, yeah, I stage all the time. I'm staging. Yeah, staging is my life. And so I went back to the hotel and I Googled staging, and because I had no idea what it was. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I have been doing that. I just didn't know that it was a phrase back then, And so I ended up finding the woman who started it, Barb Schwartz, and I went and took the class, got certified in staging, met all these amazing women, and we started a great networking group. And then at that point, my business was up and going, and my husband, and this was after 9/11, and my brothers were both in the Army, not the Air Force, in the Army Reserves, and they got called up at the same time, and they both had families and young children, and I just wanted to be there. Family is really important to me, so I wanted to be there for them. And we were thinking about moving anyways, and so I'm like, I think South Carolina was in the running, but I was like, then I'd have to start all over. I just started all over with changing the name of the company to me and got it all set up in New Jersey, and now I need to change it again and move somewhere. And I'm like, at least if we move to Iowa, I have family for a support system, because the girls were still young. So that's what we decided to do. And I was like, had a panic attack moment, because I'm like, what I knew of Iowa was women bake their own bread. They make everything from scratch. They sew their own clothes, and they have babies by the tree. Like, they don't need a designer, right? Like, that's the last thing that they're going to spend money on. And boy, was I wrong. Once I took the staging company to Iowa, which Des Moines, Iowa is so underrated. It is one of the best cities ever. I love Des Moines. I still have a house there. But we got the company up and started. I was working out of my home. It grew again. It grew so much. I had 5-6 people working out of my home, and a staging company, and an interior design company, commercial and residential. It was like we were doing it all. I had like so much flipping energy. It was insanity. And then we got a storefront, which was a huge bonus point for us to like be able to be in a storefront. The designers had places to work. Like, we actually, like, I'm doing this. Like, I had 14 people working for me at one point, and then COVID happened. Talk about a pivot in the pain in the butt pivot. But it was good. It was good in some ways, and in others it was really challenging, because I had a lot of young ladies working for me. One was a breadwinner, and they were actually closing on a brand new home in May. And another one was single, and she was buying her first home in May, and they had to show full-time employment proof. So it was like praying, pulling everything out. And, because we had lost over $800,000 worth of business. I had some commercial properties. They decided, the investors pulled out, and so they sold the buildings instead of rehabbing them. So that was like a really big, scary challenge, but we overcame it. It was good. And 2019 was a huge challenge personally and business wise. There were some things that happened that like shook me to my core, and literally my health deteriorated because I didn't know how to handle stress. That's one thing that's not taught in school. I now have like, if you come to my house and we're cooking together and you chop your finger, like, I've got Band-Aids and Neosporin, and I could probably sew that back together. I can take care of that. So, but there's not a lot of tools in our toolbox to help us when we're going through something mental. And I literally, no matter what I did, no matter what I ate or didn't eat, or kept working out or not working out, I just kept packing on weight. And it like took me 2 hours to get ready for work in the morning. I had no energy. My cortisol level was shot. It was a slow build back to get me to where I was. And that, has an effect too. Like, I had to rely on employees. I had to give up some control, and, there's a whole thing. I swear to God, I could probably write 10 books.
You should. Here's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
Let's let's talk about the stress.
Yeah.
So, and how that affected you. This is your symptoms are a byproduct of just stress.
Absolutely. That's all it was. It felt like everything was falling apart. So, my
That's 2019, right?
2019, that was before COVID. My relationship with my husband was very, very strained. And everything was going crazy. I had a large company that we partnered with to stage 50 homes. And then every time a home sold, we would move it. And they were getting amazing results, but they just at some point realized or felt like that the value wasn't there after I had purchased 50 homes worth of furniture. And we had a contract, but the caveat is I was tied to the second division of that company, which was They were building commercial or multifamily properties and rehabbing them or doing new construction. And that was great business for us. That was, a high price tag. Like we're talking like $350,000, $400,000 budget for finishes and furnishing that we would then provide for them. So it was nice. It was a good balance, but I didn't want to ruin the whole relationship. And so I kind of just said, they said, one day we're done. And I was like, that's not what the contract says, but I didn't want to go down the rabbit hole and ruin the other part of the relationship. So I just said, fine. I was tired of fighting. I was tired of fighting for my marriage and kids and everything else. So I said, fine. And I called all around town. I found a huge warehouse, a couple of them. I had hired a whole team of college kids. They would go pre-package the home because we're talking 50 homes. It's like 50 dining tables, 50 kitchen eat-in tables, all the chairs, window treatments, every floral, every accessory, everything was everywhere, like 50 full-on homes. And so I would send my girls ahead of time. They would pre-package everything up. Then the movers would come the next day, move all the big pieces of furniture, then take it to the warehouse. And then once it got to the warehouse, I had a whole nother team of people working on unwrapping everything, putting things up, taking pictures of it, measuring it, putting it on Facebook Marketplace. So then I was working up like 120 hours a week, at least, up all night long trying to sell things on Facebook Marketplace, trying to get things sold because we had so much inventory. It was just costing so much money. And then it was depressing because I know what I paid for all of the things because we used, there was high end stuff. I sold like a $12,000 sofa that we had, leather sectional sofa from a show home, and I think I sold it for $1,500. Like I was like literally, at one point I had to walk away, and I just said, you guys treat this like this is your stuff, sell it for what you can, but get it gone. And I told my husband, we decided to reconcile, and I said, I have to get out of here. I have to go connect with nature. So we booked an Airbnb in Estes Park, Colorado, which has just the most beautiful energy on the planet. So I went there to try and find some balance and get kind of like a reset and a plan in my head moving forward on what I could do to do damage control.
It's a lot of hours, but
Mm-hmm.
we can always move on, right? But here's what I'm curious about. I got a lot of dudes that come on this podcast, and we'll break down where they went wrong or where they backslid or where their marriage and relationships and things along those lines, right? So it's an easy conversation. I've never had the opportunity to ask the female side of that from an
Oh,
entrepreneurial side on you know, what was the factors? Because right now. I'm like, when do you have time to eat? When do you have time? Right, your time is stretched completely thin. So you're balancing this amazing entrepreneur and all this company and leadership thing, but you have a husband and you have kids there.
mm-hmm.
What was your factors, or what was kind of, if it's none of Jeff's business or our audience, right? Just let me know.
No,
We'll move on.
I'm
I'm curious because dudes will come on and be like, well, we quit dating, we quit this. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, right? But that's kind of the way those conversations go about what happened in their marriage.
Yeah, well, it started off really rocky. Like I found out I was pregnant with twins before we were married. We'd been dating for 5 years. And there was some, challenges in the dating phase where, someone was unfaithful.
Yeah, I
And
got you.
even though we weren't married, it was still very hard on me because a promise is a promise. Do you know what I mean? So like it was hard to move past, and nobody really teaches you how to deal with it. It's kind of like you suck it up. And I think as men, it's hard to say you're sorry because you don't want to fail. And then there is we're like the perfect storm for like triggering each other. So like he doesn't want to say he's sorry because if he says he's sorry, he's failed. And he would give me the line, which I don't put up with today, but it hurts me too much to talk about it, that I hurt you so bad. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to hurt you. So then I just pile more on me. So I'm hurt. And then now I don't want to hurt him. So we can't talk about it. So nothing ever gets processed. So it's compacted layer on layer on layer. And then you have twins to boot. And then he was wrapping up his PhD, and then he gets a job where he's gone 80% of the year. So you sign up for this partnership and it's nothing's really discussed. You just kind of fall into it. Like, I mean, I was a willing participant, so I kind of let it happen. And I didn't really have a voice, like so much. So like, even though like I love broccoli, he hates broccoli. I never cooked broccoli because he didn't like the smell of it. Like, and I'm like, now it's like, toughen up, buddy. Like, I want broccoli. I'm making broccoli tonight. So if you don't want it, you can go sit outside or go for a walk or something. But, like I didn't really have a voice. So having the company kind of helped me find my voice a little bit. Now it's in a loving way. Probably during the bulk of the marriage, it probably wasn't so loving. It was a little resentful. So I would say that, just lack of communication, lack of what do you really want out of a relationship. And where it really starts is, I always say you're not taught that. I've said that a couple times on this podcast, but you're really not taught the art of dating. He was my first boyfriend. Like, I didn't really date. You find somebody, you date, you get married, and then you just make it work. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. There wasn't like, what do you want out of life? Like, I feel very blessed that we're on the same page, at least like with money and finances. Like, we never had to worry about any of that at all. And yeah, so it was just challenging from the get-go. It was challenging from the get-go.
And then it comes to this implosion moment, right? But
Mhm.
it's your stress, all the things that creates the shutdown for you and affects you negative in your company. How do you come? Where is our exit to come out of that scenario of bad negative stress to where you start? Or do we go from 2019? I'm stressed out, Jodi, can't find myself, and it's taken me this long to go to work. Does it roll right into COVID, or do you get a break?
No, I got a little bit of a break. Like I told you that I went to like Estes Park to connect. I did. He ended up he had to work a lot with these people in Japan, and their hours are different. So he would be doing presentations till like 9, 10 at night. That was my time to sit outside, and the elks were bugling, and it was just, there's coming up to the deck, and there was a hot tub, and I just sat there and literally connected with nature and God and just meditated. I meditated and meditated, and I used that time for me and to healing. So that was kind of the start of it. And then I also ditched my doctor and got a functional doctor and had, started going more holistic, more natural. My mom was a nurse. If I had a toothache, take 7 Tylenol because that's better than 1. So I was way over medicated. It's like, this is my mother. I'm tired. I worked hard. You guys need a Dimetap lollipop so that you guys take a nap so that I can. So yeah. So I'm now like, anything that has to do with medicine, I kind of repel unless absolutely necessary. More holistic and natural. So that was kind of the path. Talking to an endocrinologist, talking about the cortisol levels, like, what do I do? She's like, it's going to take 2 to 3 years. And it actually took almost 5.
Yeah.
It actually took almost 5. I mean, you see like a slow elevation in like energy and being able to do stuff. And it's just like, taking care of yourself, because I felt the weight of being a people pleaser. And I had all of these employees that I needed to take care of to make sure they were good. So we kind of like ride out 2019. The kids are gone. We're empty nesters. We decide to stay together. We sold the house. We downsized and moved to a little condo downtown, 8 minutes from the airport. We're going to be traveling together. I've got a decent team. I mean, I have an amazing team now. I thought my team then was good, but it's really good now. So like, now I can leave and have no worries at all. But I thought that was a lifestyle we were going to have. And then we were figuring out, we sold the house. Like, where do we go from here? We use this little condo as home base. It's close to the airport. We can go back and forth. And, so then COVID hit, and then we're like, okay, let's try Charleston out. And so we Airbnb'd there for like 5 or 6 weeks just to see how it would go with the business. Because it was just a quick plane ride back if needed, anything, but it worked really well. I think that was one thing that COVID did great, was it showed me that I can let go of some control and trust issues that I had, based off past situations with, other employees, and just kind of let people be who they are, and they're going to get stuff done, and just, let go of that. And that was great and very freeing for me, as a business owner, to know that I don't have to do it all.
Do you think you found forgiveness in Colorado? Just
I did.
right. Yeah, right. Because it seems like there's that you went looking, right? And I was curious because when we matched that moment with you and your husband and the struggles,
Mhm.
that's why I was kind of anchoring, figuring out where we were with COVID,
Yeah.
because you're teeing me right up for where I was hoping we could go. But like I hear this moment of just all the hell you guys have put yourself through. You end up in Colorado, and you have this moment of like, I'm gonna be here, right? Meditation, just connection. But there sounds like there's this time of forgiveness because it let you go, but you also was able to let other people go,
Yeah.
like your staff and your team, right? It's just, it seems like there's that moment because some of my conversations, if you ever, like, if you hear some clips of me just talking about what people's like, one of the things I got hung up on, and I watch other people get hung up, is figuring out when to forgive. But here's the other part, forgiving yourself.
That's
And just,
exactly
yeah.
what I was going to say. My husband and I hadn't quite made over all the hurdles yet, but it was more forgiveness of myself. Have you ever heard of Hapona Ono Ono?
No.
You need to look that up. I believe, hopefully, I don't slaughter the story of it, but there was in Hawaii, there was a mental health facility, and it was like people who have, murdered and killed and like just all sorts of mental issues that you can and can't imagine were going on. And they couldn't keep a doctor there. They couldn't keep a psychologist there at all. And so this one guy came in and said, I'll do it, but I want to do something my own way. And so they let him do it. And it's basically this, I don't know if ancient's the right word, but it's a Hawaiian way of like forgiving. So you're using four phrases in any order, but you're really connecting. So if you think of the person or the situation that you have going on, like, so like I'll use my husband because I have been talking about him. So I would imagine him sitting in front of me while I'm meditating. And I would say the four phrases are, I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you, and I'm sorry. So I would start off by saying, I'm so sorry for my part in causing this stress between us, this strife, this whatever it is that I'm sorry for that. Please forgive me. I love you so much. And thank you for forgiving me. And I would just over and over, and it's like a release of emotion. And I've used that technique even on employees, like when there's a stressful moment and I didn't want to fire this employee. I really didn't. Like she was with me through thick and thin, but things were going downhill and I couldn't have her part of the team. It was like, dragging everybody else under. So I did Hapona Ono Ono for like 3 and 4 days. Sometimes it doesn't happen that quickly, but it did. And then she ended up putting in her 2 weeks and we had a beautiful, she left on good terms and we just had a beautiful transition where it could have been me being very frustrated with it. So and you can do that for yourself too, just for anything. Like this morning, I tried a new technique that I heard because I just got back from a retreat in Costa Rica called 𝐟𝐵Mia, where you do ayahuasca. It's a healing retreat. But one of
Oh,
the people there mentioned sitting in front of a mirror and having a conversation with yourself, like saying, you know, hey Jodi, you are a beautiful soul, you are light and loved, you are so loved. And it today was the first time me doing it, and I sat in front of the mirror and looked at myself, and it took me 2 minutes to even get any words out. I had this huge emotional release. I don't know why it was so hard to say that, but I was raised Catholic, and one of the words I said to myself is, you are so worthy. And then I stopped and started, being more emotional, and all I could hear was me getting my first communion, and the words that were said in communion all the time is, I'm not worthy to receive you. I am not worthy to receive Jesus or God into my life. And that is so far from the truth of
yeah.
anything. We are worthy. We are made in his image. We are him. We are all united. We are all together. So we are all worthy. Otherwise, we're saying that he's not worthy for calling ourselves unworthy. So that was a huge moment for me this morning.
Um, and psychedelic experiences will pull those out.
Yes, it will.
And after days after,
Yeah,
days after you're
three
still, that's,
months. It's
yeah,
still in you for 3 months.
it's when the work starts, right?
Yeah.
I've been able to experience some guided mushrooms.
Okay, I'm trying
And
that next.
yeah, very, very enlightening. But not like for folks, hey man, this is done inside of a setting. It's illegal.
Yes.
It's all the things. So just, but there's a lot of people that's reached out and said, "Oh, I ate a bunch of them and it feels like," but nah, that's.
No,
I mean, that's
not that.
yeah, that's one way. But finding a guide or
A shaman.
shaman, guru, like yeah. So
Mhm.
finding someone in internationally is typically where you find those folks, and they can walk you through. And the shaman experience is it was really enlightening, and
Yeah,
some of the teachings is what you said is like because a lot of times in those experiences is you don't see yourself, right. It's kind of out of body in some ways.
it is. It
Tell me about ashwagandha real quick, or not ashwagandha, but tell me about the ayahuasca.
ayahuasca, it was incredible. Like I didn't know what to expect. I'm an Aries, so I kind of jump in and like I'll figure it out later, like, but I'm headed towards this. So I'd been wanting to go for 3 years. I've been doing research on it. I was thinking about going there instead of going to Estes Park. Like I found that place when I was searching for a place to go. And I'm like, it's just not the right time. And then I just felt this strong pull push, like you have to go and you have to go now. And I'm like, okay, I'll go in January. They're like, nope, we ain't got time for that. You got to go now, like November. So I was like, okay. So I booked the 1 week that they had available and showed up, and it's the most beautiful resort. It's the only spot that they had medical staff on there with you. So you have medical staff with you, and you have the shaman, and it's this beautiful ceremony. It's very hard to describe, but they have beautiful like places for everybody to lay down with pillows and blankets, and then of course it's all about purging. They say when you purge through orally, that is releasing emotional trauma that you have, and if you purge the other way, then that's releasing sickness, illness, disease. A lot of times I would yawn. Yawning is another sign of purging. I also obviously crying is a sign of purging. There's all sorts of things that can happen, but started at 5:30 at night, and then it always started with the shaman with the blessing and talking about some things, and then they bless the ayahuasca, which tastes horrific, by the way. They give you this cute little shot glass, and you're like, oh, this is amazing. Well, medicine is medicine for a reason. It was incredible. So the first night was like most visually crazy experience of my life. Like I saw everything, every color. I went everywhere. I saw people that have passed. I saw at one point, because everybody was purging and I had 4 cups and I was having a great night. I didn't purge at all. I wasn't getting sick at all. I think it was because I was holding it in. When I got back to my room, I couldn't sleep because it got quiet. And in the quiet, more visions came, and I was seeing like hieroglyphics. I was seeing all this ancient text, and I'm like, wait a minute, stop, show me, go back, go back, go back. And they're like, be quiet. Now's not the time. We need to get this in you tonight. And I'm like, okay. So I just laid there. And whether my eyes were opened or shut, I could see the same thing. It didn't matter. It was really trippy. And then the next morning, I mean, I didn't sleep at all. I got up and went to yoga because you go through everything, and then you're basically just juicing for 5 days, just drinking juice if you can get that down. And you go through colonics just to like get your body vessel ready to, to prepare. But the ceremonies were beautiful, and the last one was really beautiful. It was they say that it's mother ayahuasca, so it's the mother strand version of the plant, and it's made in the Amazon. So you're drinking that for the first 3 nights, and then the fourth night is grandma ayahuasca. And this isn't the cute cuddly little grandma that says, can I bake you some chocolate chip cookies and snuggle you and read you stories? This is the grandma that kicks you in the ass and says, get your shit together, like get going, this is now or never. And that was probably my emotionally toughest night. But the most beautiful thing that came out of that night is I was so restless, and I was purging so much the other days. I couldn't even get the whole cup of grandma ayahuasca down. There was some residue in my cup, and I was laying in my bed and getting really nauseous because I knew there was a little bit in that cup, and I didn't even want to know about it. I almost asked the shaman to come over and rinse out my cup for me just so I didn't have to visually think about it. And I still couldn't get focused. So I went outside, because you can wander around. Like you're not so out of it that you're doing crazy stuff. Like you're very monitored. And you could tell when you needed to use the restroom and different things like that. And I got up, and I might've been a little dizzy, but I walked and sat outside by the fire for a while. And then finally the release came emotionally, and a shaman, or who I thought was a shaman, came out and like sat next to me by the fire and didn't, no touching, nothing, just looked at me and said, "You are beautiful, you are divine, you are so loved, and you are just like an amazing soul." And then I started crying harder. And that night it goes until like 9:30 in the morning. Like it's all night long that you're doing this. And then I was getting ready to leave at 9:30, and one of the guys in my group came over because they have men and women separated. And he came over, he goes, "Was that you I was talking to last night?" And I like, so then I started crying even more, because you're not supposed to talk to each other because it takes you out of your trance or your moment. But he felt like he had to say that to me. And I said, I just started crying, and I just said, that is the first time any male has said anything so nice to me and didn't expect anything out of me in return. It was like a huge pivotal moment for me, and it was so beautiful. And then we were both crying because he's like, "I don't even know why I said that, but I just saw you and I had to come tell you that. It was just in me to tell you." And I was just like, I will never forget him. Like, don't know who he is, don't know where he is, like, couldn't do anything. It wasn't about anything other than another human being sharing something so pure and joyous to help somebody else lift their spirits. It was beautiful.
That's the experience, man. Do they do music? Is it music or is
Oh
it
yeah.
silent? Yeah,
No,
music.
they use
Music
music.
vibes.
They use music to help you purge too. Every time one song came on, everybody was like being sick or purging or some in some fashion. I do, if anybody's interested, I do have a trick that was a huge game changer. Unfortunately, I didn't find it out till night 3. That if you take peppermint oil, and so you go up with your thing, you do the shot, and then you go back to your pillow. You can't drink any water because that ferments in your stomach and it'll make you even sicker. But you can take a shot of water, rinse your mouth out and spit it out, and put 2 or 3 drops of peppermint oil under your tongue, and it tastes like you just chewed gum. Like the sensation and the taste goes away. And oh my gosh, like so the first night I did 4 cups. The second night I did 2. The next night I did 2, and or the next night I was able to do 3 because I had the peppermint oil. And then grandma night I only got like half a cup down. I couldn't do anymore. I
That's too
couldn't.
funny.
Yeah.
That was recent, right? That was something we just
It
did
was
recently.
just in November. I'm not sure when this is going to go live.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
November of 24 that it happened. Like it's like so recent.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Um, Real quick,
Yeah.
I don't want to steal no more. But the person from 2019 that rolled into 2020 that has to go face all the things. I don't know whether you're in a blue state or red state because it mattered. During I was in a blue state, so they shut my gym down. Um,
I didn't shut down at all. I mean, they
yeah,
nationally they did, but I looked at my girls and they were all over the board. There's no judging. You do what you want to do. I said, but you guys need a job and we need to work and people need us because I mean, people were ordering furniture like crazy. They were tired of
yeah,
sitting on their crap, and they're like, "I don't care. Come over to my house and help me pick out paint colors." Like where I was at in Iowa, nobody cared. They wanted us to come over and do everything. So um, I told them, I said, "I'm not going to police you. If Sally Sue is sitting 5 feet from you instead of 6 feet from you, then you have to work that out with Sally Sue. I'm not going to be the police. I'm not shutting the company down. If you want to not work, that's fine. You can take your time off, but there might not be a job for you because we're going to stay busy and I'm going to hire somebody else to take your position." That's just my feeling. And I'm not buying into this fear crap. We're not, that's not how I roll. We're not going to live our life in fear that something's going to shut down or you're going to run out of freaking toilet paper. Get over it. Get some
yeah,
towels and wash them by hand. I don't know,
yeah,
figure it
yeah,
out.
right. It's it's a difference in the forgiveness phase that you roll through. You got right with and then you're when this major world changing thing comes along, you're ready, right? And it's like life prepared you for that difficult moment and keeps just kind of nudging you along the way now.
And so much. And just even going on that healing retreat, having this pause moment, I was like even looking at something astrologically. Jupiter went retrograde and Jupiter is in Gemini now, and that has to do with, you know for me it had to do with a lot of work situations and a lot of emotional relationships is what it had to deal with. Not only my relationships with my family, but relationships with my employees. And I just found that out today. And then I had, after all of this happened with my employees and talking to them and having those conversations and being open and honest. And now I feel like we are like this, where we were a little apart. We are so interlocked now. And I have laid the foundation that not only can they come to me, but I said, you feel free to check me. If I'm getting like frustrated, I'm not frustrated at you. I'm frustrated because I didn't set you up for success, or I'm not leading you properly. It has nothing to do with what you did. More than likely, it's more something that I'm disappointed in myself. So if you feel that tension, feel free to check me and say, hey, go get a Snicker bar, or go do some meditation, or do something. But then let's come back and talk to this in 15 minutes. Like, I'm me too. We have a different relationship. We're really close in our little group of people. So
It's good.
yeah.
It's good that it took that path, because the last thing you want, they could have exited. Like, you could have walked in and been a note on your desk saying, "Hey, I'm done." But at least,
Ever want to get it to that point, ever. It's
yeah,
not good for us and it's not good for our clients, because you can't hide those things.
yeah,
Things come out, especially with me. Like, I wear my heart on my sleeve. Everybody knows everything, and people like working with me for that reason, or they don't. And
or
that's
they
why
don't.
we do the 1 hour complimentary consultation. I say, you need to know who you're getting into bed with, so to speak. Like, we're going to be working together for a while, so you need to understand how I work and make sure that's going to work for you, because we're
Yeah.
not for everybody. And maybe your project's not for us, but that's what the discovery part of the 5D is. The first D is discovery. So
Real quick, tell us
yeah.
about your Designing in 5D podcast.
Yeah.
Break that down for us, and then where folks can learn more about the 5Ds.
Absolutely. So the 5D is basically going through a process of how we approach design with our clients, with intention and purpose and compassion. So I'm in the middle of process of renaming it 5D, the process with all D's. But for right now, I'm just going to use what I have been using. So the first thing is discovery. So we take an hour of my time for every client that they can book online to go over their project, so I can understand the scope of how they want us involved. And then usually within 48 hours, they're provided a proposal to work with us. And then we do like a follow-up call if needed, if I didn't understand anything properly, misunderstood something of what they needed. And then once contracts are signed and we're moving forward, we go into the exploratory phase, where I'm going to go on site, or a designer's going to go on site. We do all the measurements. We talk to them about their style, what they want. We really get into the nuts and bolts, and it's a long day. It's like 5-6 hour day, depending upon the size of the home. And then after we do that, then we go into design, and design is broken down into 2 phases. We start with the floor plans first. Once we understand the floor plans and sign off on that, then we go into the second part of design, which is doing all the selections and finishes and furnishings and all of that. And then the fourth D is the compassion part of it. Like, we offer concierge services to be with client. Like, one of our clients said, I'm going to, do the flooring and painting and get furniture from you, but I'll manage the project. She ended up in the hospital, and I said, can I please assist you with this? Her husband texted me back and said, can you just coordinate the cleaners and the painter to come in and make sure everything's done? And I said, no problem. So that's that compassion, that concierge service that we offer when our clients need us to step in and take care of that for them. Because a lot of our clients, at least in Florida, are out of state. We're a nationwide interior design firm with projects all over, but that's what we cover for the compassion part of it. And then the 50 to me is transcendence. So that's like the learning and growing part of it. Like, how do you get better than you already are? Like that pivoting part of it, because there's always something to learn and grow from. So it's like taking the clients all the way through. And we do this all the way, and they haven't even broken ground. They haven't done anything. We're doing all the designing up front, so that we can make documentations to give to the contractor to get bids on what the client wants, like the exact grout, how it's going to be installed. Like, everything's done with visuals, 3D videos, like HGTV style, beautiful renderings. Everything is completely done. And then the contractor knows what it's going to look like in the end, and the level of design, that they're looking for, the clients are looking for. Everything's just detailed out. So they come back and say, okay, it's going to be $400,000 to do this. The clients are like, my budget's 375. Where do you see opportunities to value engineer this? We all work together as a team to provide options to say, hey, if you cut back this, or if we don't put the tile on a 45-degree angle, if we do it straight install, that'll save you X, Y, and Z. They're like, great. Or sometimes people are like, I just love the design as is. I'm going to find the money somehow. So we're just going to move forward with it. So, but it gives you the option rather than being all the way through or halfway through or quarter way through the project and realizing, hey, I told my builder my max budget was 1.5 million and he just told me I'm at 2.2. What do I do? That has actually happened to me. So, 80% of all projects go over budget by 20%. When you like to have, I feel like we're insurance to make sure that you're getting what you want and that it's coming together how you envisioned it.
Yeah.
Taking that time to do it up front. So that's kind of like what our process is. The podcast talks about through builders, from their point of view, architects. I have psychologists on to talk about the importance of, having a space that you can enjoy and relax in with all of the crazy mental stuff that's going on in the world. You need that place and the importance of that. We just have, and clients, I talk about clients I made huge mistakes with, but then, we talk about how we go back and fix it. Like one client, I gave her all of her money back that she gave us because I didn't realize she was having a terrible experience with one of our clients. And she just called me and, was very frustrated. And I said, I'm giving you all your money back and hopefully you can find it to forgive us. And if there's an opportunity to work together, I will personally work on your project with you. And she's giving us that opportunity.
Yeah.
So
that is a really, really cool podcast, right? Because it answers all the questions that someone like me sitting back and you go, like I walk into a place, most of the time we've never built, but you walk in and you go, oh, I really would like to have this. So you go to all your houses and you find these nuggets, but that's a really neat place where you can just go and find all those ideas and why you should have this room or why not. Man, that's really well thought of.
thank you. That's
yes.
part of that. That's part of the pivoting and what you learn and grow through. I grew personally going to, Rhythmia, but it really changed my approach with, clients and the intention and the manifesting of clients that want to work with us that way. It's a little bit backwards thinking because everybody just wants to know how much is it going to be to remodel my, redo my kitchen and bathroom. And I'm like, it could be anywhere from $5 to $5 million. What do you want in it? Like any contractor that goes in and says, I give somebody a price, it's a guess. And that's how come people end up over. And then the real problem is they're working off of allowances, right? So if you're doing a kitchen, the first thing they're going to have you do is go pick your appliances out because you need your appliances in order for the cabinet person to start designing the cabinets. So you're like, they give you a budget of like $4,000 for appliances, but you really want the gas stove and you really want the refrigerator with all these bells and whistles. And now you're up to like $50,000 on appliances. So you're over budget a little, you'll make it up. But then you sign off on the appliances, they get ordered, you sign off on cabinets, you sign off, and then you have the checkpoint. And then you're like, $100,000 over. So what gets cut? Your plumbing, your lighting, your furniture, your window treatments. And then that makes the whole experience so frustrating.
Yeah.
So frustrating because you're not getting what you want, not what you thought you were going to be able to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool. All right. How can folks connect with you? How would you want folks to reach out?
The best way, well, we're on every social media platform. Go like, share, check us out. Inspiration. We're on Facebook, Instagram. I just started Threads, which is really fun. LinkedIn, and Pinterest. I don't think there's one that we're not on, and we're on TikTok even too. So I have a whole social media team. So we're on all those things. But the best place to really feel us out and to see the portfolio is at 𝐿izabethAaronDesigns.com, and it's Aaron spelled ERIN, the girl spelling. So they can go there, and there's even a button that's yellow. It says contact us, and you can click on that and you can fill out a little information, and then you have access to my calendar and you can book your complimentary consultation, because a lot of people don't know where to start. They don't know when to involve a designer. A lot of people have a negative connotation that all designers are just going to jack up the budget. And that is the opposite of what I want to do. I want you to know where your money is going. Like if you don't want to spend $2,000 on that light fixture and you'd rather put, spend 1,000 on a light fixture and put the other, $1,000 towards a backsplash, let's do it. Like, that's the whole point of seeing the design and then getting the budget numbers so you can pick and choose where you want to put your money, because lighting to me is very important. And accent pillows. I'm an accent pillow whore. I'm self-proclaimed. But like, other people might want to put that money into, like insulation or like something more, foundational. There might be other places. Everybody's different in where they want to put their money. And when you work off of allowances, you don't have that luxury. You're just, once you sign off, it's done and ordered. And then if you have to return it, there's a 35% restocking fee. So, I mean, things can get way out of control. And if you want window treatments and furniture in your budget, we can put that in there so you can see, okay, my furniture is going to be like 75,000. So maybe we need to cut back on some of this because I definitely want to have new furniture. And there's some people that says, forget it, I'll get furniture in a couple months or a year. I just want to get the project done. But the point is that you're making the decision and you're not forced into a decision made by somebody else.
That's a big deal. That's an absolute big deal.
Yes.
I hope this is the first of many conversations, because it
Yes.
flowed. It flows very well.
Aw.
If you hadn't figured that out, and I can't thank you enough for like some of that transparency and things that sometimes can trigger some negative emotions that you really don't care about reliving. But for the greater good of the audience that's going to hear this, and just knowing that there's another, like you folks, you know it. You listen to me. There's a lot of guys that come over here and they talk about how their marriage felt, and this was really cool to hear another perspective, and someone who sits a little higher in the entrepreneurial world as well, running a team and all the things that you are in business. I have learned so much about you. I'm so glad that you connected with me, and I hope that this is the first of many of our conversations. But man, thank you for being with
Absolutely.
us.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure. I did a meditation before we started, and I just said, please just let it flow and let somebody, if one person gleans anything from this, that would be amazing. That helps them and cheers them up and lets them know they're not alone. We're all connected and we're all going through this process together. So,
Yeah. Thank you.
thank you for